Administrator McCarthy, my first question, and this will not surprise you, goes to the Secret Science Reform Act that I introduced, that passed the House, and that has passed the relevant committee in the Senate. President Obama's own science advisor, John Holdren, testified before the committee and said, absolutely, the data on which regulatory decisions and other decisions are based should be made available to the committee and should be made public. Why don't you agree with the President's science advisor, and why don't you agree that this data that you use to justify these regulations should be made public? As you know, the bill doesn't take a position on any regulation. We're not making a judgment call. We're just saying the American people and other scientists deserve to see this data. I'm hoping you've changed your mind, and if so, would welcome that comment.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me first say that EPA totally supports both transparency as well as a strong, peer-reviewed, independent science process. But the bill, I'm afraid, I don't think will get us there. We've had conversations about this before, Mr. Chairman. The way in which our science works is for scientists to develop
But why not make this information public? Why not make it publicly available?
The information that you're asking us to reveal is revealing publicly identifiable
Right. Now,
information.
you and I both know, and we've talked about this many times, that information can be redacted, and I agree that it should be redacted. So why can't you release the information after it's been redacted?
I think the fundamental difference of opinion we have, sir, is I don't actually need the raw data in order to develop science. That's not how it's done.
Understand, but why don't you give us the data that you have, and why can't you get that data? Surely you have the data that you base the regulations upon.
Well, EPA has the authority and the need to actually get information that we have provided to you.
But you're saying contradictory things. You're saying you can't give us information because it's personal, then you're saying you don't have the information. Which is it?
Well, when we receive the information, we're not allowed to release it, and there is much information that we are not, that we do not have the authority to gather.
You've got the President's science advisor saying,
weaken our ability to do
you've got the President's science advisor saying you should make it public. I'm willing to say we're happy to redact all the personal information. There is no good reason why other scientists can't review it. There's no good reason why I don't think that the American people shouldn't see it either.
We are absolutely in line with the science advisor. The science advisor, however, isn't indicating that every study that EPA looks at to determine, to have a body of science.
I'm not saying every study. I'm just saying the studies and the data that you relied upon to try to justify these regulations.
That is a body of data that we did not generate, that is generated in science and peer review.
I wish the EPA would follow, you know, the ranking member said you have nothing to hide. And yet it looks to me like you're hiding a lot from the American people, and maybe we just have to disagree on that.
We're just protecting people's privacy.
And again, there's ways to do that, and every other agency does it except for the EPA. You can redact the information. If we're not going to agree, I regret that, but I think it makes the EPA look bad. On the Clean Power Plan, former Obama administration Assistant Secretary Charles McConnell said at best it will reduce global temperature by only 1/100th of a degree Celsius. At the same time, it's going to increase the cost of electricity. That's going to hurt the lowest income Americans the most. How do you justify such an expensive, burdensome, onerous rule that's really not going to do much good? And isn't this all pain and no gain?
No, sir, I don't agree with you. If you look at the RIA we did, the regulatory impact analysis, you would see it's enormously beneficial. The value of this
rule.
Do
you consider 1/100th of a degree to be enormously beneficial?
The value of this rule is not measured in that way. It is measured in showing strong domestic action, which can actually trigger global action to address what is.
Do you disagree with my 1/100th of a degree figure? Do you disagree with the 1/100th of a degree?
I'm not disagreeing that this action in and of itself will not make all the difference we need to address climate action. But what I'm saying is if we don't take action domestically, we will never get started.
But if you're looking at the results can't justify the cost and the burden that you're imposing on the American people.
Actually, this is a cost-beneficial rule.
We're obviously going to disagree on that as well. My next question goes to the production of documents, and I appreciate in the last couple of weeks you've been a little bit more forthcoming. But my question is, when can we expect to get all the documents that we have either requested or subpoenaed?
Well, let me begin by saying EPA is committed to transparency and the true and faithful compliance with the Federal
Can you give
Record
me
Act.
a date when you will produce the documents that we've asked for?
There are a number of documents, some of which we're still discussing with your
Right.
staff in terms of the
And any
scope
kind of a
that
deadline or
request.
date that you can give us to when we will get those documents?
I'm more than happy to have staff continue those discussions, sir. And if we're not moving in
But
the
those
pace you
discussions
want, we
haven't
can
led
talk
to
about it
production of
ourselves.
documents. We can have discussions forever. If you're not willing to give me a date by which you're in good faith going to try to give us the documents, then I can't believe that the EPA is acting in good faith. So is it the end of this month? Is it the end of next month? When is it
Sir,
going to
you
be?
have a number of requests into us, and I
Right.
want to make sure that I do not give you a date that I cannot achieve.
Right.
We're
Okay,
still
give
talking
me
to
a
your staff.
target date, any target date.
I cannot do
Anytime
that
this
until
year.
your staff begins to discuss with us, which they are.
You know, to me, this just continues a pattern of obstruction that we've been seeing for a couple of years now, and it would be easy for you to say, I'll do my best to get it for you in the next 30 days or whatever, and the fact that you're not willing to do that is disappointing. And again, we're talking about largely with these regulations, it's all pain and no gain. I don't see the
Mr.
impact
Chairman,
that it's going to have that's particularly beneficial.
As quickly as we possibly
Okay.
can, and we'll make every effort to do that. I'm just trying to avoid giving you a date that anticipates what your own staff
Like
will
I say,
scope out.
I just wanted a target date, a good faith date, and unfortunately, I'm not hearing that date. I thank you for your testimony today, and we'll now go to the ranking member and recognize her for her questions.